Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of A Different View. How you guys doing out there? Just a topic for discussion today is on trust and promises. Pretty cool subject to talk about, especially with watching Marvel's slash Disney Plus TV show Secret Invasion. Very, very good little comic story arc. If those listening to this episode are into comic books at all, look into Secret Invasion. It was a really, really good story arc where you had aliens called the Skrulls. They lose their home, which is ironically called Skrullos. And they came to Earth, and Earth's heroes, and I believe also Nick Fury in the TV show. Anyway, they use Nick Fury as the story arc here for a lot of this. So, and also shout out to Samuel L. Jackson. Very, very good performances he's put on these last two episodes. It's always nice to see when Samuel L. Jackson's at work. Very funny, very poignant person. Kind of puts and tells it right on the spot. So that's very good to see. But in watching the show, it continuously drives home the point of the importance of trust and promises and keeping them and developing them, and what happens when you don't. And right now. And this is not to spoil this for anybody. You have certain things that happen in this show. People's lives are put at stake. People die as a result of damaged trust and broken promises. So just a little bit here on this subject. The first time you see the word trust is back in the 1200s, and a lot of these words, maybe fortunately or unfortunately, have English, and it has England's name kind of written all over it. Kind of where the term comes from, that we speak the king's language, if you will. Other different terms that kind of talk about how we speak England terminology. So, that's something to note. So although it comes from, although it's used and kind of generated, kind of comes from Middle England, as they call it, or Middle English era, you also have Old Norse. So the Norse, like Vikings, Scandinavian people, use this word, and it's spelled Traust. Seems like when you're looking at it, it's Troust. Those on listening on this episode here, if I have misspelled or mispronounced anything, reach out. I think there's little polls on the episode or on my Facebook page as I post this, and just let me know. Definitely give me feedback here so that we can continuously help people and provide a different view. So the meaning of the word trust is help, confidence, protection / shelter, and support. And when you go and you look through a lot of examples of trust, we have all seen different, whether it's been friends and family, workplaces, no matter really where you go. Where people's trust has either been established or it's been broken. And the very damaging effects, you have war because people break each other's trust. You have levels of poverty. You have levels of sickness. And, it's funny, how could you say you have levels of sickness when it comes to trust? When I mean sickness, I'm talking specifically to how those who are helped, who are sick, Those who are sick put their trust in those to help them. And this is not to talk about where, say, surgeries go awry, or, a person eventually succumbs to the ills they have, whether it be cancer and such. But what I'm speaking to specifically is when a group of people can help and don't, and you have people looking to them to help them when it comes to sicknesses, ailments, providing health care, proper health care. You break the trust of someone when you say that you're going to help them, when you say you're going to do it, and then you don't. Or you provide the bare minimum when their need is bigger than just the minimum. As a result, people start to distrust not only groups, but that same kind of activity happens inside communities. It's also internalized, where you can break your own trust. You have people you rely on inside of a community per se. For example, they, want to come together, want to do different things, and then it falls apart. It's disheartening is another word that's used. Again, it's where the trust in it is broken. Also kind of bleeds over into the promises aspect of this. Let me just read promises here. A declaration, assurance that one will do a particular thing or that a particular thing will happen. The Latin for the word is and again, I apologize if I mispronounce here, mitteri or mitteri. Pro in Latin means forward, and the mitteri part is send. We've seen both those words when you send an email. You can forward an email to someone from information you've received, or you can send out an email from what you type. That's big because the inability of not keeping promises, which is where you get, if you don't promise something, you can't keep, that kind of idea, because what it starts to do is tear down people. And sometimes people do it to themselves internally. No, I'm not going to do that again. We're not going to, eat this kind of food. We're not going to do this. And I don't mean on the level where you kind of make a superficial wish, I mean from the standpoint, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go down. Something for financial purposes, health purposes, whatever it might be. And what you do, instead of keeping what you say to yourself, you break it, or you let yourself down, as they say. That is the part where it's most damaging, because now you start to break your own trust to yourself. And when you start doing that, it's just a bad chain reaction, because now you have no foundation, because you've broken your own trust and promises to yourself, because you live in a society where it's not just yourself, that disappointment, if you don't repair it, then reverberates to everybody, and it's a damaging thing to everyone. So it's definitely something to watch out for, to be on guard against, is keeping trust and promises, not only to yourself, also to others, and building trust with people. It means something, in a world today where it's become, maybe to be fair, the world has been superficial for some time now. And when we say some time now, you could go back into when these words were made, where it was really, really, really a point of putting down another group of people in order for another group of people to flourish unnecessarily. And Again, everything history bears note to how bad humans have been when it comes to breaking each other's trust and promises. I don't need to go through the laundry list. That's not really the purpose here for this episode. Just to bring to light here from the stuff shown in this show, from the stuff shown in this show that is very, very important. It is a good thing to not only have trust in people, but to develop trust in people, to work hard, not to the point where you become consumed by it, because that's unhealthy on the other side, but where you work your tail off, if you will, to make sure people's trust is developed. Because on the backside of this, here's a quote to kind of illustrate this thought. Trust is earned, respect is given, loyalty is demonstrated. You know, one of the things that people talk about a lot when they speak on how bad society is social media. You hear that phrase a lot. Of course, is what we call, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of the other myriad of social media outlets. TikTok. Of course, one of the originals was YouTube with this, really, if you think about it. That it's just the idea that it has put society in such a horrible level. To be honest, ladies and gentlemen, society was bad before social media. However, there is some truth to it. It's just expanded a little too much. Sometimes when you look to, and this is why I break down words and phrases sometimes in my episodes, because it's necessary. I think we've made a reality based on some of these words and phrases that we use almost sometimes as catchphrases. Little quick snippets and cuts of things, and without taking the time to kind of unravel it, you start to build a whole reality around words that are only half used. Meanings that are kind of, some of that's done on purpose, meanings that are kind of partially spoken or quoted. But the truth is, you've got to be careful doing that, because you don't give full attention to what you're saying when you say it halfway or partially. And many times you see it in church messages, you see it in, church quotes, you see it in quotes all over the place. What I like to call little churchy statements. So they look good on, postcards and birthday cards and, condolences cards and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, are we really catching the meaning of what we're saying? And for many times, to the exchange for entertainment, or a quick feeling, we lose the value of the true meaning of the words and phrases we use, and it gets lost. So with this idea here, with trust, and this phrase that it's earned, respect given, loyalty demonstrated, that's a partial thought. Because yes, while that is true, the opposite is also true. Many times we have to read and see things in the opposite view to get a full view of what it is, and judge from there. Trust is not only earned, it's also given. And I think that's where it bleeds into promises, because people say they will do things. Again, whether you're talking, it's, family promises to go to some amusement park or a toy store or anything like that. And many times we'll kind of divert it and say, well, you know what? The kids were bad, so that's why they didn't go, or all different types of criteria. Work comes up, this, that, and the other. And while certain of these things we cannot avoid, they happen, the other side of it is making sure to keep them. Native people for the longest called Europeans people with forked tongues. to kind of represent a snake, how it's, slithers across the ground. A forked tongue, literally almost as a fork, where you have multiple things that are inside of it. So saying and giving you one thing, but actually having multiple meanings, or a nefarious or downright evil intention behind what's being said. That's the kind of stuff we want to avoid, because all it does is create pain, hurt, torture, trauma. And then what happens if people don't ever rebuild their own trust, either between each other, the parties of people who were hurt, or internally to themselves, if it's never ever rebuilt toward them per se, like the wrongs done toward them, you then go into the rest of society and you carry that with you, and you start hurting people unnecessarily. Some of that is unavoidable, because sometimes people don't even pick up on it. But the point is not the unavoidable to focus on, really, it's the avoidable. And many times people will flip the two. Really, they do it to avoid. When you're honest with yourself, you do it to avoid the avoidable. But the quicker you address something, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes, and we can all help each other with that. None of us have arrived, if you will. None of us are perfect in that regard, but we all have the responsibility to help each other get there. So promises, trust, not only is it earned, it's also something that you can give to someone. Same as respect. Respect is also earned as well as it is given. I think that goes to really just to, it goes without mention. That, there's no real reason to elaborate further on that. If you want someone to respect you, not only do you give respect, meaning you create the air where you will show respect to someone, but it comes back the other way. When one of the two is broken, that's where you start to see imbalances. And those imbalances can get real funky and really nasty really quick. So it's important to build trust. It's important to build respect. Loyalty being demonstrated. It's important to have a mindset where these things mean something. Money is not everything. People have made it to be that way because, again, it's easier to deal with the dollar than it is to deal with a person's life that helps generate the dollar. That's where the bigger thing is. In the Bible, it talks about how you put your trust, or you give your trust to the Lord. A mindset where, you believe in something higher. You put your trust there. It's important. It's important. So, it's just let's strive together to help each other build better trust and be more driven to keep and execute promises toward people to help them. And when we do that, we definitely make this world a better place. So that's what I've got, ladies and gents, today. And as always, find the beauty in a different view.